Hello again, back with another video that's again sort of more really specifically for our clients than as opposed to being sort of a general information video. This one is another topic that comes up really frequently, and I really understand why people could be confused by this and confused by our policy on this. And specifically it has to do with why we charge the full amount when somebody's going to book, and why our cancellation policy is basically that we don't have one. That once you pay for dates, they're yours. I can see how that could come off as being a little bit harsh or a little bit difficult for people to sort of absorb, especially if you're used to dealing more with a hotel. And I know that for me, I should really do a video at some point about how this company came about. This is not my background at all. My background is very much corporate, very much Fortune 500 consulting, and so on. Basically, this whole company started because I had a friend who was laid off early, and she was going to lose her vacation home, and I just said, look, I rent houses when I travel, let me help you. And she started telling her friends about it, and one thing led to another, and here we are. So I certainly approached this initially from the perspective of the client, the person who's renting the house, and I understand exactly what you might be thinking with regards to, well, geez, I don't know if I really want to pay 100% of this right now. What if it's not what I'm expecting, or I've never met this guy before, I don't know if I want to send him all this money, etc. And those are all great points, and I'm just gonna say that those are all completely valid, maybe not valid concerns. That means that I'd be guilty of those. That's a better way of phrasing that. They're intelligent concerns, and I'm not trying to be dismissive of them. So that said, in an average year, we have several thousand inquiries. We have a number of properties in this area, not just the one. We're at a half a dozen, the total of now 72 beds, 72 people that can be accommodated in the various beds and sleeping arrangements and so on. So we're not a huge operation, but we're not inconsequential either. And certainly we would not be doing ourselves any favors by adopting any policies that screw people over or anything like that. And I also have to say that originally, when I started this company, it was not long ago at all. It's maybe about 4 years ago. And we used to do a deposit system. We take 50% down and then just pay the rest when you check in. But what would happen sometimes is that people would maybe start out at the beach or something, or they start out part of their trip someplace else, and they just have such a great time, and they make some new friends there and stuff, and they're just like, you know what, I don't want to go. I'm having such a good time here, I'm just going to stay. And they gave me a discount to stay an extra 3 days. Okay, so I'm going to lose my deposit, but it's not a whole lot of money because they're giving me a discount to stay here, and they just don't show up. And I can totally understand that, but I still think it's kind of a dick move, pardon my language, because when that happens, we don't have time to find anybody else to rent the property on those days. It's not like a hotel that has 200 or 300 rooms, and if somebody just doesn't show up for one of those rooms one night or 3 nights or something, that it's really going to have a huge impact on the bottom line. This is the inventory of a house. Yeah, we'll give you a better look. That's the inventory of a house. These are the number of nights that are available to be rented in a typical house. That's 365 of these little blocks, right? 365. Now, let's just do some quick math here to help you see how this all really shakes down. So, if this was a 200-room hotel, then there would be 7,300 inventory units per year. But an individual dwelling, like a condo or a house, only has 365. Now, we do a pretty good job of keeping our places relatively full, but there are times of the year where people just don't travel here. Heavy rainy season and so on, and when it's really close to Christmas or just right afterwards, or whatever. So fully 20% is typical. Most places are going to be empty for 20% of the nights in a year. So right off the bat, you can just eliminate all of these like that, and half of these, actually a little more than half of these. So those are just gone. They don't factor in at all to the running of the company or to the maintenance of the property or whatever, because those inventory items, those nights, just never get used. They're all gone. They're dead. Now, the next thing to look at is what's the gross profit margin on a property. Well, believe it or not, it's like everything else in the vacation or travel industry. Margins aren't very big, and there's a lot of competition, especially over the last couple of years when recession has made things difficult for everybody. A lot of people are re-examining their prices, competing on prices, offering discounts. And a lot of our properties, for instance, will offer 10 or 20, sometimes even 30% last-minute discount pricing options, just because we'd rather not have a night go away and not be sold. Once the days pass, that night's not coming back. And but when you look at what it costs to operate a property, the overhead, the expenses, the hydro, the maintenance, etc., you figure out what your profit is by taking all of those numbers and dividing them by 365. Well, if 20% of those 365 days are never booked, that means all of those expenses have to be divided between this many days. So if you have an average profit margin, let's say of 30%, then that means 70% of these remaining ones here are also out of the picture in terms of you actually making any money on your property. So that means all of these, 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 in about to there, those. So all of these other ones, all these other dates have to be rented out just to meet expenses, just to cover the overhead, right? It's about to here, up to there. So, so really, that's the number of days. Let me see, that's 46. Sorry, you know what? I should have done this before I should have done a practice of this before I did that. So it's 46 minus 1. Okay, so that comes to right there. So from that is the number of days that are available in a year that you could actually make some profit on your property. Because 20% of the days aren't going to get booked, which means 100% of the expenses have to be amortized over the remaining 80% of the days, which means that you have this many that you could actually make any profit on your house. So let's say it's you, and you book a property for a week. So that's 7 nights. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's this right here. If for some reason you just don't show up, or you know what, it's not even, maybe you can't show up. Maybe there's a family tragedy or work tragedy, or I don't know, but maybe you can't. Well, now those are gone. And if we didn't have the money in hand for your reservation, if you had only put 10% as a deposit or something, then not only would it mean that you reduced the opportunity to make a profit on the property for that entire year by 20%, it also means that now you've increased the number of days where no profit can be made, because those dates effectively go right here. They're not used, and it's a waste. So now that means, anyways, I'm getting too complicated. You see where I'm going with this. The bottom line is that this scenario leaves us with a couple of choices. One is, we could do like what most stores do, hardware stores, grocery stores, whatever. They know that there's going to be some loss. They know that there's going to be some theft. And so they'll just raise the price to cover that. And I've always had a fundamental problem with that, because to me, and please, again, pardon my language, I've always felt that that's making the good people pay for the pricks. I don't think that it's right that you should have to pay an extra 10% on your rental in order for us to just be able to offer people the chance to put a deposit on rooms that they're not really committed to showing up for. I just disagree with that philosophically. The other thing is that even if this other person is totally committed to having that room, maybe they, I don't know, maybe they died. It sounds terrible, but like even if they can't show up, it still doesn't mean that you should have to pay an additional premium on a room because it had nothing to do with you. So I just believe that that the only intelligent, smart, honest, fair thing to do is to make everybody responsible for their own arrangements. And the only way that we can do that is to say, look, when you buy it, it's yours. From the moment that you say, I want these dates, you got them. And from then on, let's say you book it 6 months before when you're actually going to be arriving here. That whole 6 months, anytime anybody asks us about those dates, we're going to tell them, sorry, it's not available. Right? So we're going to be turning that business down because you've taken it. You said it's yours. So it's on you. If you can't come, and I mean, we have worked with people in extraordinary situations. We've had some people who have said, look, it was extraordinary circumstances. If anybody else inquires about it, please, let them know or refer them to us. We'll sell it to them or something or whatever. We're happy to facilitate those sorts of arrangements, and we've even helped people to resell their dates. But that's the reason why we do it. It's not because we're terrible people. It's not because we want to be inflexible or because we don't understand. Like I said, I approached this and set this whole company up trying to maximize the experience that you will have from the perspective of the consumer. And I think the comments and the reviews that you see on our listings from clients really reflect that as well. But anyways, that's the reason why. And if you really genuinely have a concern about what what it might mean if you're not able to make the trip, then that's what trip insurance is for. So look into it and make those sorts of arrangements if that's what you need to do. Then also, just a real quick word on our payment options. Right now we only use PayPal, and unlike the vast majority of people out there, we do point out the amount that PayPal charges to process the transactions. This is because PayPal says it's always free to the consumer, but that's ridiculous. Any transaction fees ultimately are borne by the consumer, and they're borne by the consumer in the same way that theft expense is borne by the consumer in most expenses. The vendor just raises the price to cover the cost, and then everybody has to pay for it. So I shot this video so that just to sort of clarify things, let everybody know that there's really good reasons behind us doing things the way that we do, and we're very, very much about transparency. I certainly hope that this helps to clear those issues up, and certainly, as always, if you have any questions, just feel free to get in touch. And we're always here, and we're always happy to help in any way we can. All right, hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.